Hello and greetings. My name is Joelle and I am the Viberarian. I am here to elevate, enlighten, and empower. And I'm doing that for myself. And it is so much fun. And I will say sometimes it's challenging, but nevertheless, I signed up for it. So here I am. I hope that when you connect with me in this space, that you too are elevated and enlightened and empowered with something insightful for your journey too. So I am here for my monthly weekend at Holistic Health and Wellness up in Marietta, Georgia. This is my time to come and see people in person here for appointments. I love the customers who come in and connect with Dawn, who come in and connect with me, and it just really uplifts my energy to be in this vibration all weekend. I consider it just like an honor and a treat. So if you are in the Marietta area, feel free to stop by. You can catch us monthly for these live streams. Come in, get you some crystals, get you whatever information you need to uplift you on your journey like I do. And so, Dawn, thank you for having me. Wonderful. So we're here. We have space for studio audience, so you can see us in person. And of course, I'm thankful for the Good Vibe tribe who's out there. Hey, Erica, good to see you. I think Jackie is out there. And of course, Stacy, Tanya, the whole crew. I appreciate your support showing up. Erilyn, Quincy, all of you. Yay. Hello, everyone. So we are here, and I'm going to tap into what the guidance is for us today. Now, as you know, I like to share information. Hello, I'm a Viberarian. So today we're going to talk tarot. All right. Now, one of the things that people are always curious about and somewhat hesitant about is, oh, those tarot cards. I don't know about tarot cards. There's a suspicion and a caution. I think there's a lot of fear around what tarot is, and is it okay to use it? Some religious teachings have taught that, tarot cards they're evil and you don't mess with them. They're kind of like a Ouija board or something that's going to get you into a lot of trouble. And I know that I had those feelings at one point too, in terms of, is it okay? But I wound up studying what tarot is, and I received a gift of a deck many, many years ago, and I started trying to use it to see what it was and to kind of unpack things. So cards are divination tools. Now, divination is our way of having communication and understanding with the divine. This has happened in many cultures in ways from throwing shells and casting stones or reading coffee leaves or dowsing rods or reading nature. All those are forms of trying to understand what the divine may be communicating to you. So I love using cards as a tool, and I have an extensive collection of those cards. Now, the tarot system, there's a lot of teachings about when it came from. Did it come from Italy? Did it come from Europe? Did it come from Egypt? All of that discussion is not here, what I'm here to teach. But what I am going to share with you is what I know about tarot and maybe help you to feel more comfortable if you've been ever considering it. So we all know about stories, storytelling. It's the most earliest form of passing on information. And we had a lively discussion yesterday with one of the sound healers who comes in here, Chris. He's amazing. And he is going to be doing another one of his sound events here in July. And we were talking about storytelling. And he was sharing of how he invoked this Arthurian story in one of his sound bowls. It kind of came up into him with the sword Excalibur and the Arthurian legends, right? So we all have these stories that resonate with what we now call the hero's journey, which is basically character sets off on an adventure. He meets all kinds of people, experiences different situations that ultimately pinnacle into some kind of catalyst moment. And then all the things are resolved after that catalyst happens. So tarot is basically a system that was developed to talk about the human story from start to finish and start all over again. Now, this is held in numerology. There are symbols on the cards. There are archetypes on the cards. But when it boils down to it, as you will see from today's reading, it all boils down to, can you identify with this moment in your story or someone else's story? So one of the things, hello, welcome to everyone. Yay. One of my favorite people, Kelly, just came in. She's an amazing Reiki practitioner and sister as well. I love being here with people. Thank you. I do see you all chiming in and on the chat. Please feel free to keep the comments coming. So we're multitasking here. But one of the things is, can you find the common theme? Now, one of the cards that people are most fearful of, Don, I did not get my Rider-Waite deck from my bag in there. It's in it's a tiny deck in a little lace bag, if you would grab it. One of the things that people always say about the tarot that scares them is, I don't want to know if I'm going to die. There's a death card in tarot, right? Right? Oh my gosh. Oh, the idea of death is fearful. Or the idea of the devil. What is that devil card about? Why is it in the deck? So we're going to talk about those things because fear is very real, and our response to it is at a visceral level. When something strikes that chord in us, we recoil away from it. We try to protect ourselves, right? Like, it's a snake. Oh, it's a spider. Oh, you know what I'm saying? Here comes death. But when we look at it, that the cycle of birth and death is all around us constantly. Every mother who births a child, in the moment of that birth, she has left her non-motherly state or non-fatherly state if you are a father, and that will never be returned to you. Again, that is an end to your non-parental condition. And you now are on a whole new journey, which of course strikes fear in most new parents' hearts. Like, oh my God, what am I going to do with my baby? Oh my gosh, am I going to be a good parent? What's going to happen? From here. But you then start out step by step on that new journey. And then when you have a grandkid, the era of your life being a parent is over and you've now transitioned to something else. So we can see the energies of cyclical things happening all around us. It does not necessarily have to mean the death of the body through an illness or tragedy, although we have to respect that that is also part of the soul experience of human incarnation, is to transition from the fleshly vessel back into energetic form. Seeds do it, the seed dies so that the tree is born. So you can see where I'm going with this, right? I'm going to see if I can find the Rider-Waite-Smith deck. Is one of the most common current systems of showing the tarot story. And so here we go. This is the death card in the Rider-Waite-Smith. He's riding the pale horse here. And of course, it's heralding 13 is the ending, and it's scorpionic energy, the Scorpio cycle of death and rebirth, the phoenix being reborn from the ashes. So learning to step into a place of where we are, where Eric says graduation. Yes, we graduate from one state to the next, and we no longer then are the shape or the form. The caterpillar graduates to the butterfly, and so on and so forth. So not being afraid of those moments. And I will say that anyone who has ever watched a loved one with a terrible illness that they have suffered from, my grandfather had Alzheimer's, and the painful loss of memory and awareness of his loved ones, as to him not connecting anymore with who he was to them. As the mists fell upon him, he even forgot how to swallow and to do the most simplest things like a baby. He really returned to an infantile state in terms of his present incarnation. So when he eventually passed away, there was a relief that the long transition had finally concluded, and that he was freed, if you will, of the prison of his mind and the prison of his body, and returned to spirit. And I actually had an occasion where a medium spoke with me about him. He's one of my present guides, but it was that was so challenging, because part of his mind still was active, but was in this reality that he could no longer communicate, and that was very challenging for his soul self to experience. But the remembrance and what was communicated to me was that he signed on for all of what humanness could bring, even the pain, even the loss, even the challenge. So the first thing that they say is, happens as the soul comes, is like, I'm ready to do it again. Oh, I could do better this time. I could experience more this time. I want to do this. I didn't finish doing that. Let me return to humanity and do it all over again. It's kind of like a roller coaster ride. You're terrified when it happens, but then afterwards you're like, oh, that was such a beautiful, expansive experience. And we sign up to do it over and over again. So in the death card, you can see here that we can move out of fear with the assistance of higher guidance in our perspective. And that is what tarot is, a wonderful tool to use. Hello to Cree, chiming in from Augusta. We've got people all over the country chiming in here on the chat. So I really appreciate that. So we're talking about the death card, and the devil card. So let's go ahead and pull that devil card out, because again, people are like, oh, it's a demonic energy, and it's really not. Like, what do they say? Better the devil you know than the devil you don't know. We use those kind of sayings, which is like, well, you may have a bad boss, but at least you know how bad the boss is and what to expect. And if you got somebody new, what would they be? You're like, oh my goodness, I'd rather stay in this situation than to leave it and end up somewhere unexpected. So I'm going to cover the little genitals here on the little card so we don't get flagged. But we have a man and a woman here connected to this overarching being that is, horned. And I will tell you, I don't know all the symbolism and the things that are coded into here. I do know that the pentagram that's presented here is not the aligned presentation. It is definitely a lower frequency on that. But what we have here between these two beings, they're loosely chained. And the lesson of the devil is that this is the things that we have tied ourselves to, our addictions, our patterns, our mindsets that make us think that we cannot escape this unhealthy dynamic that we are being presented with for our awareness. So this guy here, the guy, his little tail is on fire here, and it's like you're chained to it, even though your house may be burning down, and yet you're ignoring that because you feel this attachment. So whenever this card comes up, it's a challenge to us to look at where we are repeating something that we already know is not serving our highest good. Where can we shake those chains of shackles on our feet that have bound us to experience a newfound liberation and moving into a healthier balance? Because this is codependencies, this is bad thought patterns that are trapping you in dynamics because you think you can't do anything that is lowering your vibration on a repeated basis that forms something challenging, then that you're going to need to muster some kind of inner will to go ahead and address and move out of it. That's when the devil comes calling. Okay, so I have pulled several tarot decks because there is a proliferation of using the archetype, which speaks to the hero's journey, which is presented in what is known as the major arcana or major arcana, depending on how you pronounce it. Those are the 21 cards that speak to the major things: birth, rising consciousness, partnership, movement forward, connections that are unhealthy, rebirth, and then manifesting the full potential of what we could be over and over again. So in those stories, you can find people who they like cats, so they make a tarot that is the tarot of the cats, and they make little pictures with cats. You might find, like this particular deck one of them that I pulled today is Dame Darcy's Mermaid Tarot. Now, this creator is down in Savannah, Georgia, and she drew paintings of each of the archetypes in the tarot in her own version and artistic style. Of course, being a mermaid, I love all kinds of watery things. So I picked up this deck, and as you can see, it's well done. The tuck box is nicely thick. This is about purchasing good tools for your use. She's got her nice little, picture here. And she's also got an Alice in Wonderland deck that is quite whimsical. Now, I'm not versed in the lore of the Mad Hatter and all that, other than what I remember from high school and stuff. But if you're a person who really that speaks to you, you would probably want to check out this deck. And so I'm always going to refer you to Dawn as a beautiful deck provider where she can help you acquire things that you're interested in. So the mermaids, Dame Darcy, let's see here what the Devil in the Tower look like in this particular deck. The energy is still present, and for a while I stopped buying tarot cards because in my mind's eye or clairvoyance, I would always see the Rider-Waite version of the card anyway. So I'm like, well, why am I buying all these variations of the deck when I'm already going to kind of override it? But what I had to realize is that it was my clairvoyant self projecting the vision that I could relate to so that I could add additional guidance to the reading as I was saying it. Now, it took me a long time to realize that. And so what may happen to you is if you see a card, you might instantly think of a movie scene or hear a song, but then you're like, well, that's not what the book says that this card means. And I'm here to tell you that your own clairvoyant self will receive a very unique message based off the story that is presented in the card. So don't worry about whether you're reading it right or what the book meaning is. You can use that to augment it, but don't ever shut off what spirit shows you yourself as a story when you see these, because they are really meant to speak to all of us. Let's see here if I can find it. Oh, yes. Here in this, we've got the death card, and it's a gentleman here who's at the bottom of the ocean. And we see death is on a seahorse instead of on a real horse, right? Because we're underwater. And he's lying here underneath the bottom of the ocean. Now, starfish, I have a feeling this starfish is going to repurpose his biological material, because nothing is lost under the cycle of birth and life. So before he can become food for the, he becomes food for the fishes, right? So your death, of the transition of the allowing of something old to pass away, is going to be reconnected in a new life cycle. And it's interesting because you can see the same flag. She went ahead and used the flag imagery here with the white flower. And I don't know all the symbolism off the top of my head in terms of what all that means, but you definitely can get the picture of this little sailor man sunk into the bottom of the ocean floor. All right. So that is why even in so this is another deck that I've been loving to read, this Pulp Tarot. This is set up like the old Pulp Fiction magazines that and pulp movie posters from the 50s, 60s, and 70s. And so they have kind of like an American-centric perspective because of our cinema and Hollywood kind of attachment here. But when you see what the cards look like, again, you don't have to be a rocket science to realize that, oh, yes, and this one, we got poison, we've got toxicity, we've got all manner of chaos happening and corruption. And it's almost like Jim Carrey's The Mask. But it's in this card, we've got the Pope and the King and the Knight and feminine, and the hand of death is over all. So like, it doesn't matter whether you're in a position of power or a position of just normal day to day, like our gentleman here who was just a simple sailor. He wasn't the captain of the ship. He was just a guy who was a regular. It comes for all of us. There is no respecter of position that escapes you from the trials of life here. So, hey, how are you? Welcome, welcome. Yes, so again, you can see how it's different energy, yet it is the same. So, I've also got some decks that I purchased here from the shop, The Good Tarot by Colette Baron Reed, who is a very prolific artist and card creator, and the Eternal Seeker Oracle, which uses the tarot archetypes, and then the Triple Goddess Tarot. All right. The cards are not that big in here. This is the Triple Goddess deck. And what's big in here is the guidebook. It has a wonderfully thick. See, I love when there's like really meaty information inside a deck, but these are decks that I then don't read with every day, because you need to, for me, it's helpful. I sit with the guidance. I don't just eat it and then, oh, I'm done, I'm ready for the next thing, because oftentimes, especially when it falls into what we call the major arcana are the big moments, the death, the Tower, the World, the Fools, taking a leap of faith. It's interesting because the Fool card in Tarot is a little guy, and his little dog is behind him, and all he's got is the little bag over his shoulder, and he's off to see what he's going to be and uncover. In this deck, we've got, oh, hey, Robin's Realm Readings. Wonderful to see you. Y'all check out her YouTube channel as well. So here we have the two decks. We have the Pult Tarot and the Mermaid Tarot. In one, she's got this mermaid leaping through and taking a dive, like off the cliff into the water. She's come out of her element. Clearly, she has fins and she's on land. So she's taking a leap back into what is really her home. So most of us, when we are encouraged to take that leap of faith, it's because the soul is calling us forward to something that is going to feel more like home once we get through the excitement of figuring out what it is. The Fool represents the Aries rise of consciousness, which says, I am, and it says, well, what am I? I don't know. Let's set off and see what we're going to be. And here we have this lady, she's setting off on this race, right? This Fool, and there's the little doggy again. And this particular thing, it looks like a dart instead of a baton. And in the traditional tarot, he's got his wand, which is the energy that we're going to carry. Wands are the energies that we receive to convert into making ourselves whatever we're going to be. So in this card, she's got a little dart. And once she gets where she's going, then she's going to see something she wants. She's going to throw that dart and set off for it. But for right now, the energy is contained with her. And all she's doing is setting off to see where her journey is going to take us. So, I mean, can any of you relate to that fearful moment before you go ahead and take that leap of faith into something that you've never done? Like, I know, Dawn, you left your job, retired, and opened an entrepreneurial effort. Was that like
that was a leap?
It was a leap. And did anybody tell you were a fool?
Yeah.
I was called a fool for leaving my job, or leave your good government job, or all those kind of things, because people look for the safety and security moment, not realizing that when we do take that leap, it's because something deep inside of us is calling us to be more and to discover more about ourselves. So it's interesting for this fool, what kind of fool am I, right? Was the song back in the day. So now, if you've been watching my channel at all in the last 2 months, the theme has been tornadoes, storms, waters being troubled, changes coming. This is an eclipse year. The things that we are going to be experiencing are going to be dealing with the eclipsing out of things emotionally, internally, and then also globally. Hello, welcome. How are you? Come on in. I love having the live family here. Yay, wonderful. Okay, so when the tornadoes, when the storms of life are raging, Spirit is really coming forward through me, through dreams and through messages, to give the message and the heads up, so to speak, the divine perspective that storms are coming and there is going to be a disruption. And if we use the paradigm from the last solar eclipse, which was in 2017, that 3-year maturation of the grand solar eclipse resulted in our experience of the pandemic. No one could have conceived that there would be a global shutdown. It was like it defied all logic of all expectation. It's never happened before. But we eclipsed out then the idea that something like that couldn't happen. So we had a test run. And so now, knowing that this year was a grand solar eclipse, the same kind of now being prepared for something that is unfathomable to be manifested on the global scale around us, and to need to be able to respond to it knowing that we kind of probably weathered the first pandemic experience, eclipse experience, although it was challenging for a lot of people, it really put them on a new path that has ended up being better for them. Businesses were started, relationships that weren't going well ended up after as soon as everybody could get out of the house from each other. I know, Don, you guys did a huge amount of home things so that your environment would be like, well, we're here all the time, but you were both always gone to work. So, like, your oasis came out of your pandemic and it lasted then beyond the restoration of the societal regularity, which they wanted everybody to come back to work, come back into the come back to what you used to do. But for many of us, it was impossible to return back to the shape that we left as it was supposed to be. But for those who tried to return to educating the same way, working the same way, relating the same way, the eclipse is here again to prompt us to go ahead and let things fall away and trust that what is new will be better, and that we can have a shaping in that by the way we hold our energy and our state of inner selves through whatever is happening. Now, I'm bringing this up because the tower energy, the tower has come up a lot, and the tower is when things are deconstructed, when the structure comes down. In the tarot, we've got images of your little castle being capsized by a tsunami with a tidal wave coming in the back, and the tower is on fire and the two people are jumping out of it. So the question is, had you not been washed out by the water, would you have been in the burning tower structure? I'm looking for it in the various decks because each of them have like an interesting way of presenting it. If you would not mind looking for the tower in here, that would be great. And let's see here. That's the red tarot, yes. And where's the rest of my deck? Oh, yes. Would you mind finding the tower, if you would, in the mermaid's deck? All right, so I know that in the pulp tarot, it looks like the tower in Ghostbusters, where it's glowing. It's a multi-story building, and it looks like sinister, and there's a fire. I don't know if you remember the movie from the 70s, Towering Inferno, or the 80s, where it was like everybody was trapped in it. I was a child and I remember being terrified about being trapped in this. Oh my gosh, if we go to any big hotels, are we going to be stuck and unable to get down the fire escape kind of thing? It was very scary to me as a child. So that image in the Pope Tarot is very much like that. And I think the tsunami tidal wave is in the deck for the mermaids because it's so watery. But yeah, today I pulled from the Eternal Seeker Oracle just before we started. And guess what came up? The Tower. In this deck, this is chaos. All right. And we know that in the Game of Thrones, the character Littlefinger, who was a scheming and he was always plotting. Yes, wonderful. Littlefinger was always plotting for his own gain and benefit. He would set people against each other. He would, oh yes, beautiful. Thank you. So he was the master game player who would try to set things up also that he could acquire power for himself. It was never any good for anybody and what he was planning on doing. He would gather secrets and then blackmail people. He would plotted assassinations. He put the weapons in people's hands in order for them. And he said, chaos is a ladder. Right? That was one of his little things. And it was sinister. But when you think about it, out of chaos is where progress often arises. Because when things are disordered and we can't grasp onto any structures, we're forced to become innovative. We're forced to solutioneer. When people don't like chaos, then they find a way to put in some structure of stability and permanency. That's where government comes from. is when a community of people have grown so large that it becomes hard to kind of manage our common interests. What do? We elect a leader. We put people in place to begin providing us structure and support to us. So it has a very organic and beneficial catalytic way. If you were to be able to talk to a caterpillar, it is chaotic as it goes into this cocoon place, following its biological urge, where it then just becomes DNA. It lets itself go to goo, unstructured, unformed DNA material, to be reshaped into something it can't even envision from its caterpillar way of mind and biology. And a whole new biology emerges that then has to learn how to flap its wings and how to support itself. So, there is, again, an acknowledgement of the cycle of the chaos that comes from the ending of something and another thing arising. But what struck me in this particular card here, look at that, lightning striking, waves crashing, and we have been getting messages about storms and about the discharges of electric impulses from the earth that are rising up and going down in response to what the sun is pulsing over us. We've got CMEs, which are coronal mass ejections. That's when the sun lets off an energetic burst. And if we happen to be in the way of it, it washes over the planet. And it affects birds and their navigation. It affects sea creatures and their navigation. It's causing warming temperatures under the ocean. I don't know if you saw the article this week about the big sunfish, which is really a misnomer because it's only found in the very deep depths of the ocean, but it washed upon the shore. I can't remember where, but all the scientists are out confirming, and it's huge. It's like the size of a pickup truck when they show the scale of it. And everybody's wondering in amazement about this creature that we can now observe. But the only reason it rose up was because it was confused. It didn't understand. Its patterns were disrupted. Boom, there it is for us. So this is evidence that the earth is entering a chaos period. And the scientists are saying that the models they developed to understand where earthquakes hit and how big El Nino is going to be and what the patterns for the hurricane season, all of the models are falling because their science needs to evolve quicker to catch up to the reality that's showing up around us. So we've got these storms hitting in places where storms don't ever hit. It's shocking the mind, right? When you experience, I'm looking at a few audience members and I'm like, I know that things are shocking have happened, like that you would never expect a tornado to hit. Or my cousin arrived yesterday from Omaha, and while she's driving in, there's a tornado going through town. And a few weeks ago, when the tornadoes were happening, she was talking to my aunt and uncle who just recently moved into a high-rise independent living, but she saw the news people showing the window and the front side of the building where my aunt and uncle live in the tornado conversation. And so she's calling her parents like, are you guys in the basement of the building? You might want to get to the basement of the building because I'm looking at you on the news, right? And she's like, of all times, they just moved there in their life transition a couple months ago, and they were out in Elkhorn instead of Omaha, and there they are in the path of the tornado. And it makes you almost have a sense of regret, like, why did we move? If we were just going to be in a tornado, we could have been in our old house, right? That's part of that fearful reaction. They turned out to be fine, but still the shock of seeing where the people you care about most in a warning on the news is catalytic, to say the least. So when I pulled this card this morning, I said, well, Spirit is continuing to tell us to be ready because chaos and the tower is still happening around us. So I'm going to give us here what the guidance is from this book. And as I said, I bought this here. This is the Eternal Seekers Oracle. All right. So let's see here. Thank you, everyone. Yes, you can relate. Let me put the little comments up on here. I appreciate all of you in this hybrid environment. All right. Find solace within the eye of the storm. So, of course, the storms and the constant theme, it was turbulence, tornadoes. That's please look back on the channel at the things that have been there. So, this is inspired by the tarot, the Tower number 18's underlying the essence is the welfare of humanity. So, if Hollywood has a motto, it's build a model and blow it up. Now, last night I was watching Top Gun Maverick with my cousin. Now, when we were probably fifth grade, sixth grade, when the first one came out, and we had a little slumber party, a cousin slumber party, and watched Top Gun. So all those characters like Goose, they were beloved, right? But in this one, Tom Cruise is dealing with the inheritance of the son who followed in his father's footsteps to become a pilot, and the son's processing of the grief of his dad's death. And that whole reconciliation is part of the new plot line. Sorry if this is spoilers, but I don't think it is much. But in the first scene, Tom Cruise basically blows up a $35 million thing, a plane, stealth jet, because he's pushing beyond the limit just because he wants to see if he can. It blows up. He ejects himself. But the guys are like, you just blew up $35 million worth of taxpayers' technology, right? So again, in Hollywood, it's always, we sign up for those. We want to see him crash the car spectacularly. I knew he was going to blow up the plane as soon as he got in it, because it wouldn't be an action movie if it wasn't, right? So it says the universe, on the other hand, is usually a bit more subtle. Oh, have no doubt there will still be bedlam and bulldozers, resulting in a complete leveling of the playing field. But as often as not, it comes as silent thunder. All you feel is a massive whoosh. And just like magic, the once rock solid, whatever it was, is gone. And don't try telling yourself these things come without warning. There are always plenty of sirens, flashing lights, and tinfoil hats to be found if you happen to be paying attention. I keep a tinfoil hat on, and my friends always say, you know, you're a conspiracy theorist. I sure am. And I'm going to sit there with my tinfoil hat on, okay, and make sure that as I sit here with my little copper sphere to help me keep the radio frequencies and electric pollution, energetic pollution down, that's the equivalent of a tinfoil hat, okay? So here, all right. Let's see here. Always, tinfoil has to be found if you happen to be paying attention. We are not talking about watching newscasts or reading blogs. We are referring to that silent sensation right before a tornado touches down or a hurricane makes landfall. That suspended moment when there is not a breath of air, nor is there a single insect buzzing about, and all the birds have suddenly become pedestrians. Yes, those moments when something deep and primal screeches, run, and your lizard brain inspires you to duck for cover. Moments later, as you high step rapidly trying to stay ahead of the tsunami or the avalanche, you're too busy running away or running toward the chaos, which generally prohibits actual thinking. In other words, you react. How you react will determine to a considerable degree the outcome of the ensuing chaos. Up until the moment chaos strikes, numerous opportunities were presented to alter the present course. It generally starts small, and usually more than a few days or weeks have passed since the first warning flare went up. But it does happen. As time marches on, more and more signs come up. If they are ignored, the balance between order and chaos begins to tilt. Sooner or later, the tipping point is reached, and as we watch in silent horror or glee, the large woman in the horned helmet and brass bra is belting out a final chorus for our musical enjoyment just before the curtain falls. In other words, the fat lady has sung. It's over. Okay, so these are the moments that define us as human beings. When the unthinkable happens, do we run away and panic or gather what we might need and hurry toward the devastation to see what we can do to help? Are we gnashing our teeth, tearing out our hair, and screaming at the heavens in impotent rage? Or do we roll up our sleeves, grab a rake, and start to work? All right. A cold gray marble colossus dominates the entrance to the harbor. Poised with his arms raised to the sky, head lifted as if searching for answers to questions unasked, the once proud symbol of a great nation stands atop a marble base where ships throughout history sought safe harbor for thousands upon thousands of years. Storm clouds boil in the heaven as lightning pierces the air with electric brilliance, illuminating the destruction of the mighty monument. Waves surge up from the stone base, reaching for the chance to topple the giant effigy. The once proud monument will soon be reduced to rubble suitable only to fill the crevices and valleys of the ocean's floor. Here marks the end of an era to create a place for a new and grander age. The guidelines: in order for new life to begin, the old must be swept away. You can swallow your pride, stand in your truth, and accept your new role or not. Either way, change is upon you and cannot be stopped, nor can the choice be changed. Know that the light at the end of the tunnel is real. It will not shut off due to budget cuts, nor is it the flash of a gun. Follow the light as it leads you to safety. Now, in the challenge position, which this card did not come in the challenge position, it says, you cannot stop the earth from spinning, nor can you stop the river's flow. Time waits for no one, so it's best you get with the program. The changes will not be disruptive, nor will they derail you if you just allow the current to take you to your next harbor. These are the changes you have been waiting for. They may not be what you expected, but they are exactly what you need. It's deep, right? It's deep because nobody wants to experience like the catastrophic destruction of our reality. That's a fearful thing, to consider the loss of all your property, the loss of your house, the loss of your car, the loss of a person. Like these are like big, heavy things, but our preparations, what we find is that the internal tower opportunity always comes first. So the analogy that my guides have showed me, there was a show called Wipeout that was on, and it's a contest, an obstacle course, right? And it's stacked against you. The odds are not in your favor in Wipeout, but it makes for good TV, right? So one of the things was the big balls, all right? So there are 3 big round rubber balls. The supposed idea is that you're going to be able to leap from ball to ball without falling in the water 20 feet successfully. Now, these are the bouncy balls that as kids we used to bounce on in the driveway. How are you going to really make it? You do see people like 5% of the time go boop, 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 and they make it over, or they fall just before they reach the platform and then they straggle themselves up. But one of the things is you're sitting on the platform prepared for this as you're catching your breath from the prior obstacle that you had to get to that point. And most people are sitting there and they're trying to figure out, okay, how am I going to do it? They're thinking about their strategy. Well, if you wait too long on the big balls, there's another ball that comes from behind and it goes bloop, and it basically propels you into the big balls experience. And now you're really not going to be able to get it because you got the momentum of that force that is now all your planning and all your plotting and everything is gone for naught, right? It's over. Like and it's like you're waiting there as the audience member, like, oh, the big ball's going to get him, right? Because you can see it coming as they sit there paralyzed. the lesson is that you're probably going to fall off the big balls anyway, no matter what you planned and thought about. It's just reacting to what you experience as you try to leap across. So stop thinking about it. Just follow your body's urge. And if you do fall, you're going to land in water. You're going to bounce on a soft object. You may not make it to what you thought was the goal, but you're probably actually going to have kind of fun. And when you look back on the video of yourself in your encounter with Wipeout, you'll probably be like, wow, you know what? I didn't win the prize money, but we had a good time. That was a great experience. So the lesson of the tower is go ahead and do the shift yourself before there are other external things happening that now you have to factor in beforehand. So it's interesting because here's those 2 tower cards. As you can see here, there is the tsunami, the fire, the people getting out of their structure just in time. And of course, we have the towering inferno as well. So chaos, right? Let's get prepared. So this is a heads up telling us we need to be looking at and prepared. In all my dreams, it's like I'm always not shocked when the thing happens. I just begin to respond. I've packed a go bag. I have some medicine. I have some clothes. I have an emergency thing. I've got water at home. So when the Atlanta water main break happened, I was prepared with drinking water, but what I was not prepared for was the water to emerge from my toilet and flood my bathroom and my closet. So I still had to respond to the chaos that put into my energy and reality system, even though I wasn't a City of Atlanta resident, you know. So even though I was forewarned, I still had to manage an unexpected manifestation of the energy. So that can be part of it too. Fortunately, I had tools around me that I could call and help. And of course, I got beautiful Reiki from Kelly, you know, because my energy was frazzled, but I was responding to the waters rising up in my own reality. So that's part of it. Is we take the stumble, then we regroup and we just deal with it. Are we running away from it, or are we running to help others? And as light workers, we are going to 9 times out of 10, once we regroup, be helping others. Then get through. That's why we've been prepared for this time and awakened for this moment in our collective human experience to be the light keepers for others. So can any of you relate to the tower that are here or in the chat?
Oh, yes.
Do you have any specific incident that anyone wants to share?
Well, the house that I told you about in Florida.
Yes.
That was a tower incident.
Okay, so Kelly has a family home in Florida that had tenants in it, and they called and said the roof was blown up by a tornado. And she said,
it was like the only house in that area that the tornado hit. You know,
of all places,
one a couple blocks down and another one a couple blocks down, but it was like all the houses around were fine, and that house was hit hard.
And you had seen the tornado videos and the water videos and the conversation over the last couple of months about,
my daughter's graduation at SCAD was interrupted because of the water main break that you referred to.
Yeah. But you in the moment, you're like, wow, that is wild. We've been getting readings about it, but you still had to respond to the daughter's graduation. Mm-hmm. And the pictures I saw, you were all happy and celebrating. It wasn't like you were traumatized and bereft and devastated from it.
Switch gears.
You went with the flow, right, into a different thing and still celebrated the moment, right?
Yes.
And now you're responding to the crisis of the house not having a roof.
Yes.
Randomly, right? So like we get the blips, but that doesn't mean we didn't know how to respond. That's when we gather ourselves together like, oh, well, okay, now what? Right? So
as you said, once all this is done, once the house is repaired and the electricity is repaired, the house is going to be better than it was before.
Absolutely.
So, it did need to be better. We needed to make some adjustments, so now we have no choice.
Absolutely.
So the goal will be reached, just not quite the way that we
because the internal opportunity to do it never logistically like worked out. It was on the list.
We were planning
the to-do list. Yeah, you're planning and strategy. I have a reading on my channel called A Timeless Teaching on the Tower, and my guides brought in a download that was very clear. It's one of the best clear teachings that I've ever experienced or done, but it talks about what happens to the internal tower and when it hits our mind state, when it hits our energy state, when it hits our emotional state, and when it hits our manifestation. What happens when you're laid off versus when you decided to leave. And the teaching from this is like, this is the deck I actually used in it, but it was like the Titanic. When it sank, the people of wealth that had things, they got insurance. And the thing is that your insurance oftentimes will replace at a better value in a more stable structure what was perceived to have been lost. And the whole idea is your perception of the loss is where the value is determined, not what somebody else says. Oh, this is only worth $5. And you're like, but I paid $500 for it. And the insurance adjuster's like, well, we're only going to compensate you $5. Well, that's a 3D experience of the loss. But when you step into the energy experience of it, which should not be tied to the economics, you could say, well, you know what? We couldn't replace that at $500, but we use that $5 to get something else instead of trying to restore exactly the structure that needed to be broken apart in the first place. And the main thing is the insurance does it for the replacement value of the thing. Well, the value is often the sentimental. It's the pictures that are lost, the graduation certificates, the family heirlooms. Those are irreplaceable, and no amount of material compensation is going to replace that. So then it's really about our processing of the experience to really work through the hardest aspect of when the tower comes calling. So thank you for sharing that. I appreciate it. So chaos here. Now the other card that came up was the Weaver, and this is a 7 card. And 7 for me is the divine feminine principle. And we have here this being on a starry sky holding this energetic web together. So, all right, wonderful. We've got the whole Father's Day crew down in South Georgia for Father's Day has tuned in through. Hello to all the Woods brothers and family who are tuned in through Tanya and her family Father's Day network that is together today. So thank you, everyone. All right, so we're going to look at this Weaver. I've already, as I said, read through it, and then we're going to get some additional guidance for everyone's here to see what other things we can expect when this Tower of Chaos is showing up for us, which clearly it is. All right, so the web that binds us together as well as the container that holds us. This card brings introspection. Often we turn to divination when we seek a glimpse into our fate or destiny. Although the terms fate and destiny seem to be at odds with what we know is our free will, there is a purpose for all in the grand design. To summarize, think of fate as your heritage, location, and family prosperity or poverty. These are your birthrights or your inheritance, whether it seems that way or not. Free will comes in when we choose how to express those birth gifts. How we respond will be woven into our life thread from birth to death. Just as each thread in the great tapestry is woven into the cosmic story, thereby contributing to the fabric of the great design. Our threads can be strengthened, be loosened, and at times become tangled with others whose life threads interweave with our own. The weaver can show us where exactly we are on our path. When this happens, it is accompanied by a deep knowing that you are at the right time and in the right place. All else is a distraction. Here, the weaver personifies the great mother whose weaving, singing, and dancing bound the universe together, thus creating the connections between all that is. Her web is the glue that binds us together as well as the container that cradles us. Although we perceive the experience of division, we are not separate beings. We need to remember that we are each part of the great mystery of life that manifests as individual awareness. At birth, we retain a fragment of the memory that we are one. But the material plane's density and lower vibrations cause us to forget this truth. Here on earth, we as individuals can experience and express the uniqueness that we embody, allowing the all that is to experience itself in exquisite detail. As it happens, the physical is the only plane of existence where this experience is possible. All we feel and experience flows back to the eternal source to be added to the great cosmic stew of knowing. All life shares the same energy that is anchored in the center of each of our beings and connects us to the creator of all life. When we finish our quest in the body, the weaver's job is to cut the silver cord to the physical realm, thus allowing our return to the source of creation to perhaps again experience a new incarnation, depending on our personal mission. Never let anyone tell you that angels and guides are the most powerful beings that walk with you on this path. Only the bravest souls, the toughest spirits will step up to the challenge of being human. The others are the cheering sections on the sidelines, and don't let them con you. We as people are the spiritual warriors gathering knowledge and experience for the Creator. From the darkness of the void, the weaver sings harmony to the music of the spheres and weaves her silvery web, building and connecting all points of light in the universe with her masterfully spun web. She secures our connection to the source of all creation. Her body is created from stardust. Her gown is woven from the colors of the night. Gossamer moonbeams gather to form her flowing hair as she pierces the veil with her haunting gaze. When each being's earthly existence draws to a close, the weaver gently cuts the slender thread that binds the soul to the body, freeing the spirit to return home. In the guidance, the web is spun. It is both the glue that binds us together and the container that holds us. Magic may influence the quality of the threads, as do authentic emotions. Each of even the most subtle vibrations is felt by the whole. Be aware of the music of the spheres and listen to the sound of your thread as it vibrates in harmony with all that is. Now, this card came up in the reverse position. So it says here, your life has become entangled with another's or with circumstances beyond your immediate influence. This is not your true path. Raw emotions and an inflexible ego are adding to the confusion. You have given control to someone or something outside yourself. Reclaim your personal power. Identify where the web is broken and find your own path. Is that not a statement about society right now?
Yes.
I mean, raw emotions, inflexible ego, confusion, giving control to others outside of ourselves because we don't realize how empowered we are. And we're all struggling, no matter what your perspective is, there's a struggle of pulling back your power, of exercising what it is you perceive you can do. And a lot of times it's just that inner shift. Like, it's not going to necessarily come from like voting and doing all these large system things. It's going to come from a personal shift and embodying the peace frequency, the kindness frequency inside, and looking at where your own ego is causing confusion and telling you, oh, you can't do this and you have to do that and you're not this and you have an obligation to that, and all those things that we tie ourselves to. Don Miguel Ruiz's The Four Agreements. I always recommend that book because it talks about how you can uncover the agreements that you've made that are no longer serving you. And we are in the process of looking at all the agreements that we have made. If we've agreed that it's okay for people to starve and not feed them, if we've agreed that it's okay for people to bomb others in a retaliation and we don't speak up for that, all those contrasting decisions where we're seeing the collective agreements coming forth in a way that is horrifying or harmful, we are now getting the opportunity to watch those systems fall and to rebuild them with the structure of kindness, love, compassion, identifying others as self at all times. It's a beautiful message. So this is a lot, right? Like we're weaving through this whole experience. So for everyone who is here, we are going to get a message from the Good Tarot. Again, this is a deck that I bought here. And I will pull cards also for everyone in the chat before we wind up here. So this is a simple deck. It does cover all 78 arcana, but the guidance is very short, sweet, and to the point. So we are going to see what comes up for each of us to contribute to our collective connection in this now moment. As the tower is upon us, people. All right. So, all right. Okay, Cree says, yes, I know the tower. Yes, the tower comes. We can all relate. All right. All right. If you just come up and draw the card, then I'll show the camera and read the guidance. We'll start with you here. Just a single card. All right, what'd you get?
8 of Earth.
Oh, the 8 of Pentacles. So the 8 of Pentacles, look here at this tree. We got more music. We got the violin, right? Sitting here. And so again, that music of the spheres, the vibration that we are all contributing. We have what we have been gifted to do naturally that is a pure joy to us. The 8 of Pentacles speaks about the worker who has gotten a mastery over putting things into the material realm. In the traditional tarot, he's sitting at a little cobbler's bench making pentacles. And basically that's after we've gone through a period of assessment. We've looked at what our efforts are putting out, and then we've decided what we want to continue or discontinue, and then we're back at it. So this speaks to our contribution of that which we know how to do. And in this instance, it looks like our vibration is contributing to that beautiful music of the spheres that we're talking about here. So let's see what the 8 of Earth says. Is that resonating for you?
Yeah,
You're laughing. I can see here. It says, apprenticeship, gaining knowledge, learning, and employing a new craft or skill. And you are a new Reiki practitioner, having undergone your training here with Kelly and Don. So that's beautiful because you're going to be stepping into more output, it looks like, in that. So even masters of their craft have more to learn, and I eagerly embrace the opportunity to go deeper, develop a greater understanding, and find new ways to apply what I know. I acknowledge all I have learned and accomplished, the skills I have developed, and the goals I have reached. Now is the time to find new ways to apply what I know and embrace my expertise. My beginner's awkwardness has melted away, and I know what I am doing now. I have the confidence to become more intimate with the work in all areas of life.
It's such a beautiful card.
It is a beautiful card. Beautiful card. Okay, everyone in the chat, while I'm reading here, go ahead and put a number between 1, 2, or 3 because I'm going to add you right after this. So this is beautiful. We're going to put it back in because I love to see if messages come out more than once into the collective expression. I tell people all the time that when I sit and read for people or read for my channel, I take the messages for myself too, because if I cannot be the learner and the teacher both of the experience, then I'm missing half the value of this. So it's beautiful for me to also step out of amateur feeling and realize my contribution in a way and step into more comfort and knowledge with that as well. So thank you. All right, come on up here next, Miss Kelly, and let's see what you have here. All right. I knew you would.
Right. I'm going to take that one over there if it'll come.
Oh, there it is. Sticky, sticky. What is it?
The Page of Air, and it's a beautiful angel. Look at the wings.
Oh, wow. Okay, so she got the Page of Air. Now, Page of Swords. This is in the traditional tarot. As you can see here, it is this beautiful angel, but it's kind of sitting on dark waters. They're not stormy, they're calm, but there's also appears to be a feather coming down from the higher realms, and the angel's wings are open waiting for it. Now, Page of Swords is communication. It's swords, which is mental thoughts being communicated. So this is going to speak to possibly messages that are going to be coming in for you that you'll need to process and be open to with the mind, not just the heart, because it is speaking of concepts and it could be things that you're going to need to be communicating to others. So the thing with the Page of Swords is swords can be sharp and cutting. So we want to make sure that if we're communicating with others, that we do it in like a loving frequency in the way we would want to be communicated with. Now, the Page of Swords is sometimes also seen as like, well, the email communicator, Mercury, the messenger, transactional kinds of things, but it can also be what could end up to be an argument later if imbalance, if ego goes too far. Can be things, and it was not a negative expression. It was not, reverse. So I would say it's probably not nasty news, you know what I'm saying? But it's definitely communicating here. So, all right, well, let's see what the Page of Air. All right, I can see we've got somebody who's put their beautiful number in here. Okay, new ideas, a theory not yet proven, curiosity, and new focus. This calls for greater investigation as we've only scratched the surface. I don't really know. That's interesting. If I explore this way of thinking, what can I learn? Very interesting. And I would look for feathers too to be around, because that'll be coming from the ancestors and communicating around there as well. All right, so here we go. We're keeping it rolling. All right, come on down. Price is right. I know, right? As you can tell, these are nice, sturdy, thick cards, which is also a beautiful benefit to this deck. All right, let's see here what the good tarot wants to bring forward here. All right, we've got a number 1 and a number 2 in the chat. Beautiful. Ooh, what is it?
Justice.
Oh, Justice, Lady Justice. Look at that, 11. She's holding the sword and the scales here. Justice is about things. Again, 11 is the energy here. Justice will be served in this lifetime or next, right? This also can indicate if you're encountering anything in the court system or anything like that, it will be favorable for you. There will not be a miscarriage of the energy or imbalance. But standing up for justice in our frequency, which says that I cannot have something if it then departs you with something else. In the law of abundance, there's enough for all of us. So we don't ever have to decide something that says, well, oh no, it's justice for me and not justice for you. And we have here that sword as well standing down. And Chris yesterday was talking about Excalibur being drawn from the sword of truth, being pulled out from the rock by those who have the magical ability or the alignment with that in the Arthurian story, right? It was the little kid who nobody thought could beat all what the strong men were trying to do when they were coming to be the rightful owner of the kingship. And it was a little child who, if we watched the Disney version, he had long sleeves and was a little puppet, you know what I'm saying? And he just accidentally pulled the sword out and they were like, you're the king, and he's like, I don't want to be the king. I'm just a squire, right? So having that childlike experience of not knowing that we're not supposed to get something. Like kids are like, yes, everything is. I can have a pony. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, I want a pony, so I can have a pony, right? So yeah, so like here, and then again, the moon behind her, and this is such a feminine. We are balancing the feminine and the masculine. It is no longer the patriarchal idea of justice. Right. And I think that what we're experiencing, and yes, I'm going to step into politics, but what we have in the situation in Israel and Hamas, and Israel has put forward the principle of we will have justice for what harmed us in the Holocaust. We will have that at any means necessary. We will protect ourselves with our Secret Service. We will protect ourselves with our military. No one has a right to take our authority and sovereignty from us. And so that patriarchal idea of justice is perpetuating on and on and on into perpetual military conflicts that says it doesn't matter who you are. But the feminine rising up says it's not okay to take the bodies we birthed through our labor and our blood and our sweat and our trials of nurturing it. It's not okay to just haphazardly then sacrifice those bodies in the idea of something, because then we will continue to have the polarity of the experience of, no, I'm right, no, you're right, I'll kill you, now you kill me. We're not here to perpetuate those cycles because it's not true justice. So we don't know what it looks like to reach a resolution. None of us know how this is going to negotiate into lasting peace. But what we can do is operate within where we say, I nurture the things that I birth, and I also then take them out into the world and grow them. And I continue to do that in a just and balanced way, respecting that every person is me. And the golden rule of do unto others as you would have them actually do, not in principle. That is what we were here embodying. So, political rant happening. But so justice and karma says the law of cause and effect is in play now as I see elements in my life balance out. What goes around comes around. I'm now seeing evidence of this law in the conditions of my world. Well, boom. All right, come on, Don, let's get your card here. And then we've got a number 1 and a number 2. And yes, Robin has the dove and the sword and the balancing of the scales. All right. Let's see here. Give me one more shuffle first, Thumb. All right. All right. Here we go. What you get?
Tanya got.
Oh, the Eight of Pentacles. All right, we had a repeat.
Oh, okay.
Okay, we had a repeat here, so we already know about knowing what you're doing and continuing to do it. All right. And for those of you who want to see what she's doing, you need to come on out here to Holistic, right? And you're going to be doing new things and continue things. So, all right, this is beautiful. All right, now we're going to get card number 2 for Jackie and then card number 1 for Tanya. And if there's anyone else, you should speak up because we're going to be closing it down with a final message here in just a moment. Please do call up to the shop. I would love to sit with you. I would see you in person here. And if you are interested in learning more about tarot or card divination, I will be happy to come out here and do a more structured teaching, either virtually or in person, to help you continue into getting into the cards, because I think it's a wonderful way for spiritual conversations to occur. All right, so first we have from pile number 2, Justice. All right, so we are getting that repeated message, and I will say there are about 4 Libras in the house here in the chat, and this is a Libra sister here. So Jackie, there's your Justice card. All right, so we already know that karma is balancing out and at play in your life and the rest of ours. All right, we're going to give it another shuffle here and get card number 1. You can't make this stuff up. There's no sleight of hand. There's no stacking of the deck. You know, it's just, to me, one of the delights of doing this all is that you get to experience the magic like at any given moment in time. So, all right, we'll give it one more shuffle here. All right, pile number 1. Oh, the Hermit.
I love that card.
Why do you love the card? Okay, so Kelly just chimed in and said, I love the card, the Hermit. So what is it about the Hermit that...
Because you go within.
Yes.
You go within and you reveal to yourself.
Yes, the Hermit is the energy of withdrawing from society. In the Rider-Waite, this little shrouded figure has just the staff with the inner glow in it. And it's like we seek the inner light. You stop peopling. Yes, yes. The Hermit is the card of stop peopling. So interesting for a very active person who gets the message to stop peopling and to go within to seek the inner light. Now, one thing about those of us who are in the awakening experience that are connecting to who we used to be, the wise women of the village, the wise woman, the midwife, the herbalist, the healer, they would live on the outskirts of town. You know, you see it in the mythology. They live on the outskirts, and people make their way to their huts. Yes, they had to go to where the healer lady was, and sometimes she wouldn't be there because she'd be out foraging for her herbs out in the woods. And oftentimes you would see then the 2 little kid adventurers are there when she comes back home. It's like, what are you doing in my house, right? But this idea of being on the edge of society, that has been very painful for those of us who have gone through awakening at different times, because what happens is we shed our old friends. We shed our old social circles and the activities. I think Don was telling me how you all used to do house in the park. And you used to go out and you would set up this community hub and everybody would come, and it was nothing for you to be out there doing that. But you don't do that anymore. You withdrew from holding that community space for others to be more just like individually enjoying. And you'll go to another thing that's not got as many people, or you won't go at all, right? So many of us have had to learn to relish the hermit time, to like be able to say, oh, this was great. This was my me week or my me 6 months. Or for me, I went to Mexico, to learn how to, as a Libra, not always be connected to other people's for my experience of life. I had to learn how to be solo and to just exist and to be withdrawn and feel okay about it before I could come back and be healthier. So that's the other thing, is once the inner light has been seen, then we reemerge and can hold our light differently when we come back into society. So honoring the hermit time. Tanya has put googly eyes like, oh no, because the hermit card, if you don't know, Tanya's a baker and she's very active and got a big family. She's out of the family union right now and she's going to be doing this and go to school, go to that. So to say to her, go into hermit mode is like, oh no, I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it. So let's see here. Time out. Sometimes it's necessary to take time out for regrouping and introspection. This is a temporary experience, but one necessary for my growth. When I step back, retreat, regroup, and renew, I have a clear perspective on everything in my life. All right. That's a beautiful message. Now, I am going to get little guidance from the Star Seeds Oracle. One of the energies that is coming here onto the planet now is these young folks and things. They're little star beings. We all are on a level. We came here to elevate the frequency and experience humanity. But if you're out on anything like Instagram and TikTok and all that, the 20-something-year-olds and the younger folk are like, I'm a star seed. What I'm saying? They are clear that they are not necessarily human. So part of what we're getting adjusted to is the higher frequency, and they're not going to have as much problem with those old structures as we are, because we were in the density of the closing out of the Piscean era. We have parents who were deeply boomers, and the structures of institutionalism really still play out in us in a strong level. But the younger folks are uncontainable, really at a level. So one of the dear sisters, Carolyn Munden, who is a channel and healer, what she was getting in the guidance from the Arcturians at the beginning of the pandemic was that for the kids who were under 7 when the pandemic happened, 7 and under, which that talks about your first chakra phase of development in cycles of 7, the root chakra disruption of them not going to traditional school, not being part of what we thought were societal assumptions, that the chaos period for them was going to be about 20 years. And it will be out of their having been unplugged before they could cement certain things in place, and their strong desire for a new stability to emerge, that is where the new consciousness will begin to arise. So yeah, so like my nieces were 7, 5, and 3, and it was deeply changing for them in a way that my sister does not think is very good. They were isolated, they were lonely, their fear of uncertainty and their desire to go back to school and see other kids and all that kind of stuff, it was really challenging for them. And the concern about what did you lose in terms of educational attainment. Now the teachers are dealing with kids who missed all of that. But those are the old markers. So what they got in that period of time was a close bond with each other that will never have been recreated, because they would have been socializing with peers. It's like shared trauma is going to inform some of their dynamic, unfortunately. But you can see that if this is the first quarter of a 20-year de-evolution and evolutionary expansion, they're going to want to do things differently as a result of it. So if that's what we here as Generation X and the in-betweeners are holding space for them to come to as little harm as possible, for the kids on the spectrum, the autistic children, the ADHD children, the kids with IEPs and diagnosis who learn differently anyway, Now a new education system that can grow to meet their needs will come to form in some kind of way, shape, or form, but they're going to be the authors of it. It's not going to be us trying to reinforce an old way without actually radically modifying it. So that was a very deep message to get from her at the time, because most everybody at the time was like, as soon as we can get back to normal, the kids can go back to school and we can get back to work and all that. But that root chakra disruption is going to change how they create, how they are empowered, how they love, how they speak their truth, and their vision for the world in general. So we're going to get 3 cards here from the star seed energy to see what wants to come out to crown this period of chaos, withdrawal, and return into something new. All right. Advancement. A strong energy is propelling you forward. Follow with the strings of your heart. Where is the 8 of Pentacles card? I put it back in, but it had the strings that are vibrating with the pentacles around the tree. I love that. Like, follow with the stirrings of your heart. Excuse me, stirrings of your heart. Fruition. Rest assured your dreams and visions will come to fruition. And starseed, raise the vibration of the planet through your radiant and loving light.
I love that.
And each of these has a little image. Here we have a doorway passing through. Here we have another door. All right. And on the back here, we have a beautiful circle. I like the web that was being wove in the other card. So advancement, fruition, and star seeds. If that does not just affirm everything, I don't know what does. So that is what I have today for us for In the Cards, and I appreciate all of you who have contributed to it. Everyone who's online, thank you so much for being here. Oh, Tanya put the googly eyes at 222. All right, for the frequency of conscious co-creation and the divine feminine presence showing up to balance out the scales of justice. So namaste to all of you, and I will see you online and at the next time. Namaste.